everyone, Draco Magnius here for another episode of Let's Play 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. In the last episode, we had just finished off that room that we were in that took a very long time. In this episode, we're going to continue onward, maybe to the end, we'll have to see. The hallway that left the cargo room headed straight toward the stern. Junpei and the other three proceeded down it silently. Some distance along, a large room opened up on the left-hand side. It looked familiar. An iron gate covered each of the elevators. Junpei and his companions drew to a stop and began to discuss what their next move should be. We've seen this elevator before. He got off the one on the left just a little while ago. Then we went through the number 6 door, and that took us to the engine room. Yes, and after we passed through the cargo room, and now we're back here. In other words, we made a loop. We're back where we started. Junpei approached the elevator. Gently, he pushed the triangular button on the wall next to it. A moment passed. Looping is never a good thing. The elevator door opened. Although in here it is pretty good because we're going to meet with the others soon. The elevator door opened and shut. Pushing the button had apparently restored power to the elevator. Who'd have thunk? The elevator was now functional. What do we do? Should we return to C deck? No, this hallway keeps going. Even if we do end up going back, I think we should see what's down there first. I agree. Let's go. The decision made, Junpei and his companions left the elevators behind and continued down the hallway. Sometime later, Santa, who had been walking several paces in front of the rest, suddenly stopped. Set in the wall in front of him was a door. So far as Junpei could see, there was no other way to proceed. It was the door or nothing. Alright, let's open it. Junpei took a deep breath, readied himself, then grabbed the doorknob and pulled the door open. He paused for a moment, then stepped through into the room. And there he saw the number that had hung over their heads since they had woken up. 9. Like the numbers on every other door, this one too was a rough shape made of red paint. Its door was set into the back wall of the room. Junpei leapt toward it with a sudden burst of hopeful energy. It was a large double door, heavy and full of solemn importance. He grabbed hold of the door handle and shook. Nothing, but he hadn't expected it to open. The red sat on the wall next to the door. The screen read, vacant. Finally, they'd found it. Junpei felt himself overwhelmed by a torrent of emotions. At last, they found the exit, but cold gripped his heart, and he knew all too well why. As he stood, frozen, unsure of what to think or feel. Jumpy! Look! Behind you! He spun around, and couldn't believe what he saw. It was a door with the number 9 written across it. So one of them is real, the other is fake, or two groups are going to have to go their separate ways and hope they meet up. Was there a second door? Why? Junpei's voice was barely audible, even to himself. He stumbled toward the second door as if somehow compelled. It was a small single door. He sat in the starboard corner of the room, on the same wall as the door where they had entered from, but in the opposite corner. 9. There was no mistaking it. The red sat on the wall next to this door as well. Junpei shook the door handle pointlessly and muttered to himself, Why? Why the hell are there 2 doors? It was Santa who answered. There were always 2 doors. Just think about it. Zero never said there is only one door with a 9 on it. It's true, he didn't. It's hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Of course, we just assumed there was only one. After all, why would there be more than one? Oh, man. Jeez. Junpei was stunned. Zero's trick had taken him completely by surprise. There were 2 doors. That meant that all 9 people who had met in the central staircase could escape and leave no one behind. Now the reason for the bracelet numbers being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 was clear. Divided by 2, the digital root for both teams would be 9. For instance, 1, 2, 7, 8, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and the digital root for both teams would be 9. Or 2, 3, 4, 9, and 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, the digital root would also be 9. There were so many other workable combinations, but they all ended the same way, with a digital root of 9. What did that mean? The answer was quite simple. From the very beginning, the nonary game was designed to save all people. All 9 people. Zero hadn't been lying. Zero had never said there is only one door. But anyone who found themselves in the game would have assumed that was the case. Fights would have broken out. One team would likely betray or deceive the other. Someone might be hurt. Someone might get killed. But eventually, they would reach the room Junpei now found himself in, and realize the pointlessness of whatever violence they visited upon each other. There were 2 doors. No need to kill each other. They'd understand, be appalled, overwhelmed with guilt at what they'd done. Perhaps that was the purpose of the game. That was how the nonary game was meant to be played. And we told it to go fuck itself! Fortunately, they hadn't started to fight one another, at least not yet. But if one misstep was made, if the wrong mistakes happened, the stakes would rise and the noose would tighten. The thought of it sent a chill down his spine. So, what are we going to do, Junpei? A voice broke through the frantic thoughts. Santa's voice. It brought Junpei back to his senses. No use worrying about the future. You need to figure out what they were going to do next. There were 4 people in the room. Ace, Santa, Junpei, and June. The bracelet numbers were 1, 3, 5, 6. The digital root would be 6. In other words, the 4 of them couldn't open the door without the number 9. But what if there were only 3? Could door 9 be opened with 3 of them? It took him no time at all to determine the answer. There was only one combination of 3 people that would give the digital root of 9. 1, 3, 5 equals 9. That would mean... No! We gotta go back! That wasn't a possibility he was willing to consider. Santa and Ace agreed. Yep, I agree. We cannot leave June behind, or the others for that matter. Junpei let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Are you sure? I don't mind staying. June's body betrayed her true feelings. Her eyes were wet with the beginnings of tears, and her legs shook. It's okay. There's no way we'd leave you behind. Santa had said what Junpei had known the moment he realized which 3 people could go through the door. Besides, I'd rather drown at the bottom of the ocean than escape with this sausage fest. Maybe I'll go to Atlanta. Maybe I'll get to go to Atlanta. Ah, are you so sure you don't mean Atlantis? Nah, Atlanta's down there too, ask Futurama. Well, technically Matt Groening. Oh, right. Perhaps it was the sudden reassurance that no one wanted to leave June behind. But Junpei laughed harder than he had in some time. Santa and Ace smiled. You guys... June blinked tears from her eyes and bit her lip. She didn't seem to know what else to say. Very well. Best we head back to C deck. Then we should be able to take the elevator we passed earlier. You know, I don't think I will play any of the other endings of this game. The only reason I say that is because now that I know what the ending is, it'll be far less appalling and upsetting when I've killed a bunch of people and though we could all escape at the end. Because I'll know already, and I'll be, well, shit, I knew. I just had to show the ending. I'm still thinking about maybe showing the true ending. I'd like to know your guys' opinion on that, so comment and let me know what you feel you want to see. If no one does, I guess I just won't. Maybe I'll do it on my own just to see what it is. Anyway, then we should be able to take the elevator we passed earlier. Perhaps Clover, 7, and Lotus will have returned from door 1. Even as Ace spoke, they knew finding the others wouldn't improve the situation. There was no way they could split into teams that could both go through the doors. Ace knew it. They all knew it. But there was nothing else they could do. They would find the other 3 and search for another solution. Alright, let's go. They could break the game again. I mean, it's very clear you can shove stuff in the door to leave them open. You could probably do that with the 9 doors. The only problem would be maybe you wouldn't be able to verify once going through. But since you didn't activate it on the red, there's a chance it would never activate for those people and they wouldn't have to care. Also, if that just leads out, all they really have to do is just walk out and they pop off. Ace looked at all 3 of them, then turned and headed through the door. Santa and June followed. Junpei started toward the door, then stopped. He had been too busy with other concerns to notice the room itself. It didn't seem terribly important now, but what exactly was it? Junpei looked around for the first time, noticing that things that weren't doors with 9 on them. A red carpet came between 2 columns of wooden benches that ran the length of the room. Is this a church? The carpet began at the large set of double doors and ran toward the bow. What? Double doors and ran toward the bow. Toward ... Junpei wasn't sure. An altar? Was it an altar, perhaps? There was a small rectangular clove at the end of the carpet, and inside the clove was a raised platform. Resting on the top of the platform was a coffin. A coffin. Coffin. What on earth was a coffin doing in a place like that? Before Junpei had time to answer that question... Hey, Junpei! The hell are you doing? Let's move! Santa's voice echoed in from the hall outside. Right, okay! I'll be right there! Junpei turned on his heel and left the quiet, sober room. Someone knocking on the coffin? They took the elevator up to C deck. Once there, they headed back toward the main hall and the central staircase. It didn't take them long. Junpei found 7 and Lotus waiting for them. They didn't look happy. We've got a problem. Clover's gone! What? Junpei and his 3 companions looked at one another. He turned back to 7 and Lotus. What do you mean, gone? Santa, Ace, and June had their own questions asked. One moment, please. I want to see if this fixes the discrepancy. That means 7, 8, 1, 3, 5, and 6. That's 6 people. We can make 3 teams out of it. Nope. And... they can't get out. They can't get out even with her. Oh, shit. They are in a shit situation. If Ninth Man wasn't an asshole... Oh, boy. When? Why? You two went into door 1 with Clover, didn't you? 7 and Lotus responded as best they could. Yeah, we went through the door together, but Clover barely spoke to us. She just did her own thing the whole time. There were 4 rooms on the other side of door 1. She wouldn't let us into the 4th room. She just said, I'll take care of this one, and shut the door. She must have blocked it with something on the other side. We waited for a while, but Clover didn't seem to come out. We called for her, but she didn't answer. So I kicked down the door and we went into the room. But it was empty. Clover wasn't there. There was a door on the other wall, and it was open. We figured she opened the door and left by herself. We ran after her, of course, but, well, obviously we didn't find her. We figured out that much. Clover's gone. Junpei thought for a moment. When did this happen? We got here just before you. You certainly have excellent timing. So you haven't searched anywhere other than near the staircase? No, we haven't. Finally, Ace spoke. His voice had an edge of resolve and concern. Very well then, we'd best separate and look for Clover. We haven't much time left. Let's begin. There were quick nods all around, and the 6 remaining players spread out. Junpei and June ran into the central hospital room and looked around. She's not here. No, she isn't. They searched a little longer, but with no luck. They couldn't find Clover. Finally, they gave up and left the central hospital room. Slowly, they made their way back to the hallway. At last, they reached the stairs, and Junpei spoke. Alright, I'm thinking we should probably split up. I'll head back to the stairs and take the elevator down to E deck. June, you can take the stairs up to B deck. Alright, that sounds good. But, what? Could you stop calling me by that code name when we're alone? Huh? Oh, sure, right. I'll do that. There was a reason Junpei persisted on calling her June, even when they were alone. Although, perhaps not the best reason. He was embarrassed to call her by the nickname he used when they were children. Canny. Aww. 9 years ago, it came naturally, after all. They were children. But now that they were adults, it felt strange. Regardless of what he might hope for, to call a woman he wasn't dating by such a childish nickname felt odd to him. Of course, to call her Miss Kurashiki would be even more awkward, and simply Kurashiki would be a little brusque? Although he couldn't put his finger on why it felt somewhat forward to call her Akane, when they hadn't seen one another for so long. In short, it was simply easier for him to call her June, and leave it at that. Alright, I'm going then. Yeah, be careful, Canny. June, or perhaps more appropriately, Canny, blushed and smiled. You be careful too, Jumpy. Yeah, got it. Take care. Junpei looked after her for a moment as she ran up the stairs, then turned around and tore off toward the hallway. Oh boy. Why would Clover do this? She knows we're wasting our time by doing this. Does she want to kill us all with her brother by drowning us? Tragedy always strikes when one least expects it. But to wait for a man to stand before striking him down seems almost crueler than dealing the fatal blow while he lies on the ground. A light in a dark place, Junpei's smile had given him hope, both for escape and possibly for something else. It was that hope that raised his spirits just enough that they might soon be fully dashed. He opened the elevator door, and there she was. A woman sat slouched against the wall. Lotus. Junpei felt his blood turn to ice. Her body was limp, and her skin smooth and pale as always. Oh my God! Was covered in bright red blood. Junpei felt his chest constrict. He couldn't breathe. His legs began to shake. A slow, cold drop of sweat trickled down his back. He felt his stomach somersault. Junpei's mind went blank. All his thoughts were placed with endless, hissing white. Driven by little more than instinct, he began to walk toward Lotus slowly. Each slow movement of his stiff limbs brought him closer to her corpse. Finally, he stood next to her. I didn't like her, but she didn't deserve that. Now, 1, 5, 6, 7, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shit, they can't make it out. What if they find Clover? 1, 5, 6, 7, 3, 4. They still can't make it out. They're doomed. Robotically, he bent down and put his hand against her neck. There was no pulse, no rise and fall of breathing. She was slightly warm. Something somewhere in Junpei's shaken mind told him that meant she had been killed recently. Yes, Junpei thought, his mind slowly returning. She had been killed. Someone had killed her. There was a deep cut on the left side of her chest. Blood still oozed from it, although clearly her heart had stopped beating some time ago. The weapon had been a knife, then? Perhaps she'd been stabbed in the heart once. She would have died immediately. Took little comfort from knowing she must have suffered very little. Only then did Junpei notice. Lotus's bracelet was gone. Lastly, let us discuss how to remove the bracelets. There are only 2 ways to do so. 1. You escape from this ship. 2. Your heart rate reaches 0. In other words, once the bracelet is taken outside the confines of this ship, or detects that its wearer's heartbeat has fallen to 0, it will shut down automatically. Was that why the killer had ended Lotus's life? So that they might have the number 8 bracelet? If that was true, then the killer was whoever wanted the number 8 bracelet. Or perhaps more accurately, the person who would gain the most by obtaining bracelet number 8. Who is that? Who would benefit the most from number 8 bracelet? The thought had only just entered Junpei's mind when he heard a noise. Sound like a sharp knife cutting through wet meat. It struck him as strange that the noise came from inside his own body. A moment later, the pain hit him. It wasn't merely pain. There was heat, extreme heat as well. He felt as though molten iron had been splashed against the side of his body. Finally, his brain made the connection. He had been stabbed. But where? His body was quickly going numb. He couldn't tell where the knife had met his flesh. Given the circumstances, however, he had most likely been stabbed in the back. Whoever had killed Lotus had done the same to Junpei as well. Ugh! His voice was little more than a weak groan. With what little strength he had left, he turned his body to catch a glimpse of his attacker. But as he did, the knife dug itself deeper, twisting viciously. Yeah! Ugh! Ugh! He collapsed onto the floor, a puppet with its strings cut. His arms and legs, where they fell, oddly twisted and awkwardly positioned. Junpei's body was entirely numb. He could feel the blood leaking out of him, but nothing would move. Nothing save his eyes. As he lay on the floor, his life ebbing away, Junpei finally saw his attacker. 2 tiny images of the killer reflected in his eyes. With that recognition came nothing. He felt no emotions, not anger, not sadness, not regret. The paralysis that claimed his body had reached his mind. His killer glanced down at his body. Then without word climbed into the elevator and was gone. If I may. Nope. Oh, wait. Well, it's clearly not Ace. Who does that leave? I can't think of it. Well, it'll tell us. Maybe. His eyesight began to fade. The world grew blurry and began to dissolve in an empty, white fog. Fog crept into the edges of his mind and worked inexorably inward. Soon it swallowed up the last that remained of Junpei's mind, and his consciousness left him. There was nothing more. To utter emptiness, he fell into zero. Whatever Junpei had been was gone. Dude! What? But, what? That's the bad end? Now I'm tempted to play through it again. You have reached one ending. This game has multiple endings. In order to experience all the endings, you need to save now. Once you've saved, you can restart the game with information you've acquired in this playthrough saved. Once you begin the game again, you can skip through the text you've already seen. Simply press right on the control pad to pass forward through the lines you've already read. Once you reach lines you haven't seen or new choices, it will automatically stop. That's handy. Memory of Escape has been added on the title screen. Memories of Escape enables you to play the stages you've completed. It is recommended to save after this in order to unlock Memory of Escape. Yes, I'll save. Damn. Save complete. From the title screen, you can import data, and I didn't get to read that. Well, I'm going to begin with memories, but with that, I think we're going to end this episode here. I thought this was going to be the finale, but since it's a bad ending that I just got, I'm going to try and get one of the other endings. I might go back to that walkthrough I found just to see what leads where. It doesn't tell you what ending is good or bad, so I'll just be going with logic. Well, no, I'll just see what one I think I like the most, and we'll go with that. Like the coffin ending, that might be something of note that's necessary. But yeah, I'll end this here. See you in the next episode.